then, question 4, water world. So pretty much everything to do with the hydrological cycle really, and then it goes on to look at how we're affecting water quality, water supplies, and different ways of trying to manage water supplies. So the first thing you need to be able to do is understand the water cycle. Remember, if you're stuck, you can always draw this, and we need to know the various processes that take place. So heat from the sun heats up the ocean, leading to evaporation. As the air rises, it cools, it condenses to form cloud. The water returns to Earth via precipitation, and then it will make its way back to the river via surface runoff. Some water may infiltrate into the soil and go back to the ocean via through flow. Some may percolation into the rock below and make its way back as groundwater flow. Some water may sit around here for a bit in an aquifer, well, not for a bit, for a very long time. So that is a store, groundwater store. You could also have store in the form of ice caps or glaciers or snow, and then you have your trees, which we've already looked at in Battle for the Biosphere, who play a very, very important role in the water cycle. So evaporation, condensation, precipitation, surface runoff. Make sure you know that basic process. So what role do those trees play? Let's just have a look at that again. So it's the role of the biosphere. So here we have our tree. So the tree will intercept precipitation, acting as a store. It will encourage infiltration, therefore reducing surface runoff and controlling flooding. It will also increase evapotranspiration, returning moisture or water to the atmosphere even before it hits the ground, you see. You then have the role of the lithosphere, which basically means rocks. And we know there are two types of rocks. We have impermeable and we have permeable. An example of impermeable rock is your friend, Mr. Barry Boulder Clay, and that will reduce infiltration. It will increase surface runoff, therefore increasing the risk of flooding. Permeable rock is your friend Charlie Chalk, and that will increase infiltration, decrease surface runoff, increase groundwater flow and groundwater stores, so aquifers. You will often find aquifers underneath chalk. The role of the biosphere and the role of the lithosphere. So how is climate change affecting that water cycle? What do we know about climate change? We know that temperatures are increasing. This will lead to an increase in evaporation in some places, which ultimately could lead to increased rainfall. Other places are experiencing drought, particularly in areas of tropical rainforest, which can lead to forest fires. And then other places are just getting more unreliable rainfall. So how are those increasing temperatures affecting the water cycle directly? And you need to make links to evaporation rates, condensation rates, and rates of precipitation. So how is that insufficient and unreliable rainfall affecting certain people? So your vulnerable area that you've learnt about is the Sahel. Okay, and the Sahel is that band that sits just beneath the Sahara and includes its countries such as Chad, Niger, Mali as well. So imagine how these people are affected by unreliable water supplies. Well, unreliable water can lead to dehydration, which could ultimately lead to death. Water holes may dry up, So therefore their livestock, so what have they got? Their goats, there we go, there's a goat, and their cattle may not get enough water and they could die, leading to food shortages. They may be unable to water crops, so they may get crop failure, which will lead to food shortages and possibly famine. So insufficient and unreliable water supplies can have a significant impact on the lives of people in these vulnerable areas, these areas that are vulnerable due to climate change. So let's have a think about water quality next. What kind of human activities are affecting water quality? So there is plenty of water around, but the quality isn't good enough for it to be used. And we need to divide this, don't we? So we need to think about how agriculture is affecting water quality. So here we have our field with our crops in, and we know that we put chemical fertilizers on these, and this will run off into the river, and this will lead to eutrophication. And this is where fertilizers in the river cause algae to grow, plants to grow, which will use all the oxygen up, which will then, the other thing we put in our crops are pesticides. These are incredibly toxic, and they will also, after rain, run off into the river and can kill life in the river. Other issues we have in terms of water quality is raw sewage going off into rivers, toxic waste being dumped in rivers, and pretty much all the other nasty stuff that just gets dumped into rivers, toxic waste, sewage, that sort of thing, that will affect water quality. But be careful, because they might ask you specifically about agriculture. So the other thing that may happen is humans may disrupt water supplies or interfere with the water cycle, and we do this several ways. The most important one is over abstraction of groundwater supplies, and this is when too much water is being taken out of aquifers. It's being taken out faster than the aquifer can be recharged, and this eventually will lead to water shortages. And it was Coca-Cola who did this at the Plashmida aquifer in India, and it led to terrible water shortages, and on top of that they also contaminated the water supplies. Another way we may disrupt the water supplies or interfere with the water cycle is through deforestation, because by chopping the trees down we will stop interception, reduce infiltration, increase surface runoff, leading to an increased chance of floods. There are two ways we can manage our water supplies. One is large scale, top-down developments, or you can have small scale, intermediate solutions. So your top-down developments are dams, and we have various costs and benefits. So for example, they are really expensive. They prevent fish migrating, which can upset breeding patterns and lead to extinction. And they involve flooding a very large area of land behind the dam, so people have to be relocated. For example, the Three Gorges Dam involved 1 million people having to be relocated. Religious and spiritual sites were lost, so huge costs associated with that. However, on the plus side, you can control flooding downstream. You will have a reliable water supply that you can use in times of drought or in times of water shortages. It provides jobs while it's being built, and often the reservoir will attract tourism, which will improve incomes or increase incomes. A small scale water solution, however, that may be more appropriate would be a pumpkin tank, not the best one I've ever drawn again. Now these collect rainwater, and they are appropriate because they rely on local skills. Local people can build them, they are cheap to build, they use local materials such as bamboo, chicken wire, clay, and they will provide a clean, reliable source of water. This is important because it will reduce disease, it will allow girls to get educated because they won't have to go off collecting water, and it will ensure that they have water for their crops, making food supplies more sustainable as well. So these are your appropriate intermediate bottom-up solutions, whereas this is a large-scale top-down management scheme. Your example of a dam would be a Hoover Dam or a Three Gorges Dam. And that is Water World in a nutshell.